Let's start off with some facts, some statements. Tell me, do you think these 3 statements are true or false? Anytime food or gas prices go up, we're seeing inflation at work. Inflation is always bad for the economy. The Consumer Price Index and the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index are measures of inflation. Well, believe it or not, all of these statements are not true. Not one of them. They're all false. Price changes for many reasons, so there aren't always signs of inflation. A little inflation is actually generally good in a healthy economy. And as for the price indexes, those measure general price levels against some base year. Inflation describes how much that price index grows over time. Figure the more you know about inflation, the better decisions you can make as you head into retirement. Steady inflation rates of 2% actually indicate a healthy economy. 2% is actually where the Federal Reserve sets their target rates at. Low or negative stagnant inflation rates are not good. They can actually mean that the economy is not doing well or maybe even in a recession. The last time we experienced deflation, which is clearly the opposite of inflation, was 2009. And we all remember what happened in 2008. Many of you have told the retirement planners here at Merkle Retirement Planning the stories of how your portfolio was maybe down 25 to 30% in 2008. Well, 2009, because of what was going on with the economy in 2008, we experienced deflation rates in our economy. We all know what it feels like, inflation, right? You know what it feels like at the grocery store, at the gas pump. First started filling up my car in the mid-90s. My Grand Am gas then was 99 cents a gallon. I'm sure you have a similar feeling of that first car that you put gas in when you turned age 16 and paid probably a lot less than 99 cents. We feel it at the grocery store. But one thing we can't do when it comes to inflation is feel and just know what's going to happen in the future, right? So you realize that it will impact your retirement, but what will it feel like? In today's episode, Loren attempted to give us at least a sense of what inflation can do in retirement. And what he did was he took an analysis of what someone spends a month. So he took someone at age 60 who's living off $6,000 a month, and he used some assumptions of inflation and what things will cost. And at age 75, those living expenses, they go from $6,000 to $9,300 a month. Of course, a jump in living expenses. But what happens at age 90 in retirement? Those living expenses jump to $14,500. That was an eye-opening number for me when Loren put that up on the screen today in our inflation episode. So you see those numbers, you know it's coming, and now you're left with, what can I do about it? Sometimes we feel like we're a victim to inflation. There's nothing I can do. Gas prices will rise. In the working years, you're hoping that maybe what you're getting paid increases with inflation too. You get a raise each year. You're hoping to outpace inflation with your earnings. But in retirement, a lot of people say, now I'm on a fixed income. We know that Social Security, yes, there's a cost of living adjustment. It averages about 2% each year, but there were some times in the 90s when there was no cost of living adjustment for Social Security. So there's no guarantee, because we know that that's something that lawmakers decide on. They use a formula that does include inflation rates, but what that level is going to be, you don't know. And plus, we also know that Social Security for most people isn't solely what they live off of. So they do feel like a lot of times retirees feel like they're on a fixed income and they feel like they're a victim to inflation. But what if we flip it? What if we say that you're not on a fixed income in retirement and you don't have to be a victim to inflation? You want to live the lifestyle that you want in retirement. So again, how do you do it? Think about that $14,500 a month. How could anybody afford that in retirement? Well, it is a big number, but it's not something to ignore. That's what I learned today. I listened to Loren. He talked about this number, and he talked about some of the strategic planning that he and the retirement planners do to help people plan for inflation. And that's not, of course, something that I help people do, but I definitely listen and I think, oh, what could I tell someone if they asked me, how would I plan for inflation? So here's what I would say after what I learned today. Think long term. Don't ignore it. What Loren and the retirement planners do is, of course, they can't make inflation go away. They can't make the cost of that gallon of milk stop rising, but they can do some other things with your retirement that help put a little bit more money in your pocket that can help you pay for inflation, so to speak. So he talks about investing with inflation in mind. In the working years, you're investing in a way that maybe is a little more risky, that is a little more, I've got time to recover. If there's a 2008 and I'm still got 10 working years left, 15 working years left, 20 working years left, I'm okay. But as you get closer to retirement, you don't have as many years to recover from something like 2008. So how do you change your investment philosophy? You change your investment philosophy to think about retirement and thinking about inflation and thinking about you're about to start taking money out of this portfolio. It's a whole different game. So what can you do differently? So then you think, oh no, if I change my investment philosophy, I'm not going to make as much money. My returns aren't going to be as high. Well, maybe not. That's the eye-opening experience that I had today watching Loren talk about inflation and how he helps people plan for it. If you think long-term and you don't get caught up in the year-over-year returns, you can actually take less risk, but still experience the upside of the market. And he shows a really powerful example of two portfolios, a portfolio in the working years and a portfolio in retirement, and how that second portfolio does better actually than the working portfolio because of the way it's invested. So that's something I think that was really eye-opening as we talk about how to plan for inflation in retirement. A couple of other action steps, because we all like action steps. So what can I do? I don't want to be a victim to inflation in retirement. Well, you can also think about taxes. If you save more money on taxes, then you have more to spend on those living experience. So what can you do to save money on taxes? Again, I feel like taxes are another one of those things where people think, I have to pay them. There's a rate. It's set by the government. Whatever I make, they take a portion of. Yes, in the working years, generally, there's not a ton you can do to manipulate maybe your tax bracket. But surprisingly, in retirement, there's more you can do, especially if you start thinking about it before you retire. You can start living on different kind of taxable sources of income. Well, if you save money on taxes in retirement, that's another way to beat inflation, because then you have a little bit more spending. So you see how this all works together? That's the takeaway here for me too. That works together, and you've got to think about it long term. Here's what you can't do, not take action. Because here's what I know. Price of things will go up. We can't stop it. It actually, as we know, is a sign of a healthy economy for the price of things to go up around 2%. So planning for it is the best way to do it. So planning involves taking action. An action you can take is watching our online Journey to Retirement workshop, because what you're going to do, I talked about taxes and then I talked about investments. You'll see what I mean from the retirement planners, the people that actually write this out and show people. They're going to show you how John and Sue make a Social Security decision that puts $80,000 more into their retirement portfolio. They $80,000 more to spend. That's one way to beat inflation. They also show you some investment strategies that put six figures more into John and Sue's pocket when it comes to retirement. That's another way you can beat inflation. So those are just a few of the concepts and the strategies that the retirement planners go through in our online Journey to Retirement workshop. They take John and Sue on a journey. You're going to want to meet John and Sue. You can do that by going to retirewithmerkle.com, signing up for our online Journey to Retirement workshop, and you can see these strategies at work.